Welcome to the Forank Marketing Podcast, where honest conversations, tested tactics, and no-nonsense marketing come together. Hi everyone, welcome to the Forank Podcast. My name's Leigh Buttrey, I'm the PPC specialist and one half of Forank, and I am joined by Zoe Ashbridge, our SEO expert. And we've also got a lovely guest joining us today, Chris Nightingale. It's marketing specialist at Can Do Marketing. So hi Chris, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
All good, yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. Really looking forward to this one. Obviously, see you guys everywhere on LinkedIn. You've got really good exposure and really good value. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we uncover, like next sort of 60 minutes or so.
Amazing. Yeah, we were just discussing prior to getting onto this recording now, actually, how all of us have sort of in the LinkedIn world always sort of stalking each other, but this is the first time properly meeting. So excited for you to be on this, Chris, and looking forward to seeing what you've got to discuss. So Zoe, hi, how are you and what's new?
Yeah, all good over here. I don't feel like I've got any like big news this month. I've had a lovely month. Just, nice, average, but like good, wholesome. Had a cold for about a week, but other than that. But yeah, it's just been like good. Got some nice clients. I've got a new client that signed on. That's exciting. Doing the SEO people to follow. So that they should be getting their first invoice today, and I'm meeting them officially on the 8th. So that's quite big, exciting.
That is very exciting. I remember when I had my first client, I was just like, get in, and the amount of emotion that you get from, like, even to this day from getting new clients is really, really good. So no, congrats. That's really exciting. I think stable months are also really important. Like, I remember I used to panic about stable months that I'm not growing, but actually, if you've not lost anyone, that's a really big thing as well. Like, retention is massive. When I was starting my business, I didn't even think about retention, but it's actually so much, if you sort of take away my own business, for normal PPC, right? It's so much harder to get a prospect someone new than it is just to retain people you've already got.
It is.
So I'd say that's a good month. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say, yeah, retention is so important, isn't it? 'Cause I mean, it's easier in theory to like resell something to someone who already trusts you than to go and get someone like brand new every time. So yeah, and I don't take on many clients at all, but we've had like a nice kind of little reshift in the last year-ish when my husband used to be a WordPress developer and used to do his own projects. He's now come on a bit more fully into the SEO world, which is really great because he brings this wealth of like technical knowledge that although I obviously can do it technical SEO, I can't do it like a former developer because of all the coding skills that transfers. So I've kind of managed to like share like a bunch of work with him. So all the workload got spread between two people, which like has opened up some opportunities for some new clients that we can like share between us. So it's a little bit of growth there, I guess, as well. But yeah, we're rolling well. That's good news, I suppose. We're rolling really well together actually as a little duo on the SEO side now. That's happened quite significantly in the last month.
Nice. Do you ever find like the conversations roll into like dinner time or weekends or like anything like that since you're working so closely?
Yeah, all the time. But I don't mind that. Like
Yeah.
do you know what, there's a podcast with what's that guy's name? The Diary of a CEO guy. That's Stephen Bartlett, isn't it? I think it was his podcast. And he interviews, I forget on the name, but it was the founder of Dermalogica. So she married someone within the business, or her husband came into the business. I can't remember the story. And someone that she said she always gets asked about like work-life balance. And to that, she says, if you have to think about work-life balance, I just know that you're not happy in one of those areas of your life. And I love that. And I thought that's so true. Because when you love your business and it's like, I'm so grateful to it. Like every time like I open the fridge, I'm like, oh, thank goodness my business. Like my fridge is full. Like I've got a lovely home. And I'm not even exaggerating. Like I fully do like love it.
I was talking to my counsellor as well, like, because I remember her saying to me, she goes, what are your hobbies? And I went, I ain't got none. She goes, what do you mean you've not got any? And I went,
That's not even true though. You've got loads.
this was at the time where, this is a really bad point in my life, by the way, hence the counselling. But I was like, I haven't got any. And she was like, what about your job? I said, you know what? I love my job. She goes, why can't your job be a hobby? And I was like, yeah, why can't it be a hobby? Like if you love, like, I think we're very fortunate I personally love my job. I know there's peaks and troughs where I hate it and I fall back in love with it. But I do think like if you were very fortunate to be in a role where we do love it. And I think being self-employed or having your own business, like it makes a world of difference to it. If you're unhappy with something, you are able to change it. And I think that's just amazing to be able to get to this position now.
Yeah, definitely. Chris, any wins for the month? Any good news?
Yeah, I had a couple of wins. I really wish I could share names and stuff because they're like really exciting people, but you know what it's like in this world with them. It's properly like do not say who we are. But even like working with agencies as well, which definitely don't like being kind of mentioned. There's a couple of agencies that I'm now working with just to fill gaps because you know it's people
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
going off a client disappearing, whatever. They like to get other people involved. So I'm finding that a little bit the need in working with agencies, which is really cool. And I 100% agree with that point before, where you can just, if you don't like someone you're working for, you can just end it unless you're in a contract, a really big contract. You can just work around it. So you end up working with really, really good people that you know and trust over a long period of time. And that's what I'm kind of gearing towards now. So it's like slow but steady. And then, I mean, I don't know when this has been released. It's the end of the month. It's the end of August. I touch wood. I will be hiring my first full-time person, which is not me,
It's amazing.
November. So
That's so fun.
yeah, touch wood, all being well. That'd be good.
Oh, well done. That's like so exciting and scary at the same time.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah, is it like is like someone to like help with all the client works, like almost like an assistant to what you do, or hiring for something else?
Exactly, yeah. It's like what I was stuck between two camps was getting someone who's really good, really expensive, knows more than me, and then a junior who's cheaper to kind of hire but needs a lot of training, etc. And actually, I've been working with a freelancer over the last 12 months who just kind of helps me pick up little bits here and there, a tracking audit here and account audit there, and that's just naturally grown over time. So it's a point of just bringing them on board now and saying, you've been part of this journey. I think there's loads you can offer. Let's both just go out and tackle stuff. So they do very similar stuff to me, that they can do PPC account management, they can do account audits, they can do client comms, and it's more of like
Amazing.
I guess you guys in a way, it's like two people, you're both kind of co-founder, you're both in it together, both got loads of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I just think, yeah, let's get them on board. They've worked really well for me over the last 12 months freelance, and why not continue that? I think that's probably the way I see my business going. Like, even though I definitely thought it was the lifestyle business, just me, just working when I want to, it's one of those where if you work with someone on freelance and they're doing well and you give them more and more and more, it just naturally evolves into a full-time opportunity. It's not like I've just woken up one morning and gone, let's hire someone.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it just seems natural, which is really cool. But yeah, touch wood, nothing is ever guaranteed until the contract's signed, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
let's see.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is nice to have someone to work with, I think, because we've known each other for years, but we were working separately as freelancers because obviously we do pay-per-click and SEO separately. And then we started to just come together because obviously those skills are really complementary. But I love working with Leigh. Like, my life is so much better when I've got her, because like when we're working on a client project, we just gel together.
Mm.
She brings ideas, I bring ideas, and there's just like a different energy in the project.
100%.
It's fun. It is fun.
It's like yin and yang, isn't it? Sort of thing. Like you working really well. You got each got your own strengths, but together you're like an unstoppable force.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Oh, I love that.
Amazing. I'm glad to hear it's all going well. I feel like this period with marketing, especially, I don't know, seasonality always gets so quiet on the summer holidays, which I'm thankful for. I can get some downtime, but I've just realized I haven't actually introduced what we're talking about today. So our podcast today is all about why marketing isn't linear. And I think this has come up in so many conversations on our previous episodes, but I think we want to just actually talk more about it. So we'll get into it. I know Zoe's got some interesting stats here, which we can discuss, and then we'll get straight into the topic.
Yeah, we've got two stats today. So one from Demand Gen, and they're saying that B2B buyers are 70% through their purchasing process before they engage with the seller. So in other words, by the time someone speaks to you, engages with your company, they've already pretty much made their decision. So all the marketing that comes before that is obviously really important. You should be capturing people before you actually make that engagement. And interestingly, actually, it's the customer that reaches out, or the buyer that reaches out to the seller as well. We'll get into that throughout this podcast, I think. And then the second stat I've got, and this one is my favourite because I love doing this, but 95% of consumers check online reviews before buying, and 93% say reviews drive their decision. And I'm sure, I mean, I check reviews on everything. That's one of my favourite pastimes is when I'm doing anything, like literally anything. I love filtering by 1-star reviews. And it's
Oh,
not
that's
easy
fun.
because like it's good to like
Oh.
see where like a product fails, I guess. But I do just
Yeah.
love to see people moaning in reviews.
Oh yeah. I do that to make sure I'm not missing anything, but it is rather amusing to see what Karens there are out there as well. That's like, see, what's the absolute, because you're always going to get a 1-star if you're a big hotel, like you're just going to get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is always amusing to read those. It's a really terrifying stat that actually, like, you think of the number, and I don't know how much of it is an issue these days, but definitely thinking on Amazon and Google reviews, the number of fake reviews, chatbots, and all that kind of stuff that are just posting and farming out reviews, and people are clearly like really reliant on it, right? So I think there's definitely that transparency piece, which is really important to say, Trustpilot, or whatever, verified reviews. These are the people trusters. Go and have a look at the case study on them or something like that. I think that's really important.
I was just going to say, I did pick these stats out and I put them both in for B2B and B2C. But what I thought was so interesting with B2B is actually, I probably should imagine this happens or crossover to both industries. But that's kind of powerful to understand. Like, if you haven't shown, if you're not available in the space when someone's doing their research, you've actually probably lost 70% of people if you put it into that context. That's why marketing is so important, and we'll talk about this forward, that not all marketing tends to lead itself directly to a sale or a lead, but how important that actual process is really, really interesting. Yeah, 95% of consumers checking online reviews. I don't think this is anything new actually in marketing. I think we've just got stats now. I think this has always been a thing. I think if you look back before the internet, word of mouth would be a thing. That's the trust builder there. And I don't think it's any different really. It's just that we've now got, it's now online. I was actually in a client meeting yesterday, or a client strategy meeting, where they were trying to sell a product for nearly £400, and there wasn't a single review posted on their website anywhere. And I just thought, why would anyone buy this, and I think that's just the importance of it. Like, even if you've only got small reviews, it's like, or a limited number of reviews, it's so important to be able to put that, and then that stat is actually terrifying as well.
Well, because I find come at some of our clients to go and drum up reviews is like pulling teeth sometimes. I'm like, why are you not making this? I just don't get it. Because if I work with someone, I suppose for us, we don't work with loads. Oh no, I don't. It's not an excuse. None of it is an excuse. You have to go and get reviews. And I just don't know why people don't just ask. Because we have like such good relationships with our clients. I can just ask them, and they'll put it on my LinkedIn, almost definitely. And everyone I've asked to go and put it on Google has just done it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just don't know why people create a barrier. Like, just go and get it. Just go and ask.
It's free, isn't it? It doesn't cost anything to just post a review, apart from a 5 seconds at a time, maybe. Definitely agree. And even when you're buying a product rather than a service, there's so many easy ways to incentivize it, isn't there? Putting people into a drawer, giving them a £5, giving them a free coffee to something. They'll be like, yeah, hell yeah, why not? Especially if you've got a good score. I remember when I was working at AO, and John Roberts, the CEO, like obsessed over the 1 stars, which is what you kind of pointed out before, because ultimately everyone wants the perfect solution. And I think AO have some crazy number of reviews on there, like 500,000, maybe making that number up, but probably one of the biggest Trustpilot companies out there now. But we always used to worry about that 1%, because ultimately that's that one person that had a terrible experience because of one thing that happened. It's like word of mouth that spreads out from there that could lead to them not recommending it to a friend or whatever.
It can lead to more people like Zoe filtering through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly, which you don't want.
Although I think, actually, I think I would be suspicious of any company that, especially when I just looked at AO now, so they've got like 800,000 reviews. And to be fair, they're on 4.9. Bit suspicious. That's very good.
Yeah.
But if it was like a full 5, you would be like, you'd be suspicious. But I think I actually worked with, this was a very small business, but they got like 1 bad Google review. Of like a few, like a 7 or something, 1 of 7. And he was like, I'm going to delete the whole profile. I was like, well, no, because at some point you're going to upset someone. And it's like how you handle it, isn't it? And to be honest with you, I think most people leave 1-star reviews. When I read them, I just think that person was clearly
had a bad day.
Yeah, that person had a bad day.
It's a really good point in terms of, I've seen comments like the business replied to 1 stars by being really nasty about it and almost calling you out. And I've been like, well, that just reflects on the business poorly. They could have handled that so much better.
Absolutely.
So there's an opportunity for the business to respond nicely and professionally and all that stuff, rather than just a big rant from one guy who's just had a bad day. He works for the company, so I put the company in a really bad light. So it's an interesting one.
Yeah, professionally, I'm against that. Personally, love it.
Popcorn at the ready.
Absolutely.
No, yeah. But yeah, but getting into this then, so I think this leads quite nicely into the importance of actually marketing and just going through this and even having reviews on the website and stuff. But and we'll talk about why marketing isn't linear because of the exposure that you need beforehand. One of the interesting things that I wanted to touch base off, we hear a lot in marketing is tofu, mofu, bofu, the funnel phase and what that kind of means, whether or not you should still stick to it, yada, yada, yada. I'd love to know everyone's thoughts. Maybe Chris, if you want to kick this off, what are your thoughts on funnel logic versus real buyer behavior?
Yeah, it's such a messy situation, isn't it? I think the funnel logic has always been, get people, cast the net wide, and then funnel these people down. So you go into a very marketing focused approach, but actually they bounce around all the time, especially if it's a big purchase. I'm thinking like if it's an engagement ring or something, you might be planning a wedding or a holiday to propose on months or years in advance, or if it's a car or a house, these things take so long. So I guess the point I'm trying to make there is people can bounce from being prospecting to right at the bottom and then actually take a step back and a life event happens in the back at the top and then in the middle. I know that in 2021, I think it was, I can't remember the exact date, but Google's whole messy middle thing came around, which just sets the scene so nicely because the real buyer behavior is just really messy. There's a start and an end, but anything around that is just really, really messy. So it's really important that all these touch points we can capture in some way, shape, or form because no journey is ever going to be that classic funnel that we all see unless it's something like a really, really basic product.
Yeah, it's funny actually. I think having that funnel stage in mind is great actually to start out with because I think you do need that top of funnel, brand awareness. You need to move them through, you need to give them a bit of information, but it's very true that people can bounce in and out, which is why I think retargeting and things is really important at particular different stages because people will, like you said, come in and out of it. So I think at the moment of that logic, it's fine to set up, but just have that understanding that people can move through. It's funny when you look at, I don't know why this is this is quite a difficult concept for people to grasp actually online. And I think the easiest way I can explain it is if you were back in the day before the internet, you were purchasing, I don't know, a fridge freezer. You would potentially do your research, whether that be word of mouth, catalogs, or whatever, but you would essentially go to shops and see them. You'd probably go to multiple different shops. You probably then might go home and have to then talk to your partner or whatever. You might go back out. But like even that isn't as straightforward. And I think people need to realize that, like, even back traditionally and actually going on onto that, I'm talking like that no one actually goes out shopping, but I'm trying to get at. But I think people even going out to shopping centres and all that, that process isn't as black and white as I've seen an ad. I'm going to go to the shop and purchase it. It's not the same. So why do people not think like that online?
Yeah, it's really complicated, isn't it? I remember when QR codes first came about and people were trying to stick those on their out of home things to try and capture some
Yeah.
sort of and link the bridges, and it's so difficult. And one of my clients actually used to put an ad at service stations above the urinals, and you just see it right in front of you. But that's like completely offline. Really difficult to measure the impact of that, other than like rough traffic visits. And actually, what we ended up doing was we just ported that money from the out of home posters in urinals at service stations to demand gen and YouTube because there is just so much integration you can then see through brand uplift, search uplift, everything in the Google sphere to understand how that impacts through that sort of funnel as we talked through before. A really good example of maybe how the funnel would work is I've got like an insurance client, and it's really good then to see how many people actually start a quote, fill in their details. Then once they see the price, how many people drop off. So you can almost then pinpoint, is my price too expensive? I'm asking for too much information. Are they not prepared to give their email address? And it definitely helps in that way just to understand where those drop-offs are. Because something like that, as soon as they're looking to get a quote, you've probably got about a 30-day window before they've made up their mind. So stuff like that can be really useful.
I was going to say that one thing I'd add to all this as well is, especially with like B2B, we have kind of touched on it, I guess, but you've got, the funnel is really, it's too linear, isn't it, really? Like we're saying, it's, like a messy process. But also in most cases, or especially in B2B, you've got like multiple funnels for all different types of people. So like the journey that like the financial manager goes through is going to be completely different to the staff who are using the product or tool versus the CEO versus the marketing manager's goals. Like everyone's got different problems. So you can't have one funnel for one product, because there are going to be like people with, I'd say, like 10 different journeys, and these 10 people are going to have several problems that they need to resolve before they're willing to buy it. So it's just not linear at all, really. But I do, like you said, Leigh, I do like the funnel. I think it's a good simplified. It's good to have awareness of like the different stages of it. But to be fair, we should probably like outline what the funnel is, because I think some people wouldn't know. So Leigh mentioned like top, middle funnel, bottom funnel. So it's like top of funnel is like awareness, middle is consideration, and then bottom being like conversion. So someone's ready to buy. And then you can actually like, that's like this funnel in its like simplest form, but you can add like sections within that, make like a 5-7 stage funnel. And then there's also like post-purchase as well, like advocacy, brand loyalty, brand advocacy.
Yeah.
And there, so post-purchase as well.
Yeah. I don't mind the funnel logic in itself at all. And I think it's a very good starting point, and it makes it easier for people to understand, especially in that kind of insurance example you gave there, Chris. I think it makes it easier to understand. And I think it is a starting point, but I think there just needs to be that knowledge that people can move to and from it. And if you are seeing, I guess the easiest way as well, if you are seeing in the middle funnel people are dropping off, you can then sort of kind of pinpoint at the exact stage they are as well. And then you can use that information to kind of improve your marketing at that particular moment.
Definitely agree. There's one thing that just springs to mind there, where I think it's a tool called Lead Forensics, and it basically gives you an understanding of what sort of companies are visiting your site. And it's always a good indication to go, from my Google ads, obviously I'm targeting these keywords. Am I actually bringing through the right people onto my site? Would they have any intent in the first place? Or is it just the companies are all too small? So I think in that situation, yeah, it's really useful just to understand where in the journey are people dropping off, and actually, do I need to put more remarketing effort in place and bid double there, or do I need to actually do a YouTube campaign and do more stuff at that end of the funnel? And it does have the marketing sort of mix is a really good starting point for anything like that.
Just speaking of that, actually, there was a new update. My client is just moving to HubSpot finally for their CRM. And they've actually got a section HubSpot now that's called buyer intent, which gives you that sort of information that you're talking about there, Chris, with lead forensics, which is awesome because we can now pinpoint again what type of traffic is coming in. And it was interesting. I'm going to hold my hands up to this because I did a really stupid thing with my client's ad account. And I don't mind, they won't mind me saying this, but she messaged me and she said, they're a US company. She went, just checking, can you double check the location on the Google ads that we've got running? I'm there going, yeah. But she knew because we were getting people coming in from Spain, right? And I'm there going, oh my, have I set this up incorrectly? And a complete oversight. I hadn't turned on the toggle for presence in. I did interest in as well. Luckily, it was picked up quickly, but it was able, with that insight of the buyer intent portion of HubSpot, to be able to see that. But yeah, I was just like, oh no.
I think we've all had that fear if we worked in PPC of just doing like, it's so easy to do because by default, Google will try and like catch you out with things like that. And obviously, if you're targeting UK, you're not just going to want people interested in UK, right? In 90% of cases, you're going to want people in the UK. So yeah, I hate that setting with a passion. And it's like the number one thing I check with any audit I do, because I know that I've pulled it before and everyone else will as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to, I guess, segment 2 then. I put down this note, stakeholder obsession with funnel models. I think I see this a lot, stakeholders and funnel models. And again, I think whilst I'm probably going to contradict myself now, but whilst I think the logic of the funnel is great, I think there needs to be that kind of education piece of that we talk about with how attribution works, how people bounce to and from, or within the funnel. But yeah, I'd love to know your kind of thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, definitely. From my side, I think I remember again, but looking back at AO, and I only mention AO because I was there for like half a decade, which feels like it's such a long time. But at AO, they were very focused on these kind of funnels and understanding how people were doing and how many people got through to the next stage, how many people then recaptured or did a soft conversion like a CRM newsletter sign up. And it is really good if there is good data in place. The one thing I've realized since working with some smaller clients over the last 12 months is that they have a lot of bad data or they're tracking the wrong things. And as soon as Google starts latching onto those bad things, because all it sees is ad conversion, it doesn't really know much beyond that. It just sees a 0 or a 1. And as soon as as soon as we as marketers go, max conversions, get more of that, it could just go crazy and start to pick out the wrong sort of people. So As an example of that, I work with like a luxury sofa company, and they do a lot of like free swatches and sending people brochures and little packets of what the fabric is like. Quite an expensive thing to do to send those all out for free. And actually, what they ended up doing by just following that kind of let's just go after the most swatch requests possible is they were just targeting people who just wanted a bit of fabric in their hands and then go down to the local DFS and buy something there for really cheap. Whereas these sofas were thousands of pounds, like custom made, really high quality stuff. And actually, they were measuring success on these brochure requests and swatch requests. Whereas actually, if you take that out and you lower the number of conversions, but you go after the people that are definitely in market, they're the people that you need to go after. And the way that we kind of got around that was kind of integrating the CRM, which we can talk about later on. But I think it's so important that you get good data into these funnels because that's the way it'll work. If you've got any bad data, then you're just going to be latching on with a completely wrong audience.
So I suppose listening to talk about that, what do you think people can do to like clean the data, get good data? Because I suppose someone like AO is really lucky because they were so lucky. It's not luck at all. It's like years of building a really good brand. But they've got traffic and loads of it. So they've got really massive data sets to be working from. So what I guess, so to pose the question simply is like, what would you say? How do you know you've got bad data? What can you do about it? And how do you kind of organize your data so it's good data?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the tracking audit is definitely something you want to do if you're like ever a bit unsure about things. So I realized when I first started my business, I'm not great at tracking. I don't know code. I don't know Google Tag Manager well enough, but I know people that do. So whether that's if you own a business, getting someone in to do a tracking audit for your ads account, if you're a small or medium-sized company, hiring someone or getting your tracking guide just to give it a sense check if you're a bit unsure of the data. And that's just could be things like making sure the tag is firing when people go onto the newsletter sign up page, all those kind of little bits and bobs like that, because it's so easy for tracking to fall over and no one actually know, especially with all the changes that are happening in today's world. You look at cookies and consent mode and this and that and the other, and it is really messy, right? So yeah, a good tracking audit never goes amiss, I think.
Yeah, I think to audit it is a really good idea. So I'm a little bit like you, Chris. I don't have I know Leigh is brilliant at tracking. I'm so lucky because if I'm tracking, so I can do it a little bit, but not to the same competency as like Leigh and also Stu. So I'll usually like talk to them when I need to do any type of tracking. I'm good at like the organic stuff, but if I want to get a bit more sophisticated with it, but I've got 2 examples where tracking was completely poor and the client didn't even know. So we had one client whose, I think their analytics tag or something was firing incorrectly. Remember it?
Yeah, what it was doing is their cookie mode wasn't working correctly. So someone would accept, but they'd get like a new identity every time they reloaded a page. So it looked like it inflated their traffic. So it looked like a new user every time. Nightmare.
It was a nightmare. So everything was ×3. So one conversion was 3 conversions, one visit was 3 visits. And we're only just getting to the end of like the damage of that because we can't look back. We can now, just about now, look back on August 25 and August 24 and see the patterns in the data because everything beyond that, before that, was inflated. So there's no point looking at June to June because it looks like we've lost traffic, even though we haven't. We've grown traffic, just not 3 times. And then the other one, which is a recent one, we did a little audit for a client. This is a new client, by the way, so we weren't responsible for this part that went wrong. We were just looking at it as an audit. And they asked us, they wanted to know what behavior of like the videos that people were watching. So like what were they watching? What page are they watching on? How long are they staying for? All that good stuff. And they'd actually in the code, I can't remember what the setting was, but Stu found that as well. So he's got that coding experience. He realized that they were actually telling analytics not to get that data. So they had like turned off the data pool so that there was no video data available based on what was happening on the website. We started a little bit. They were hosted on Vimeo, so we could look at Vimeo's data, which is better than nothing. But yeah, in terms of that data, it just didn't exist because they'd switched off and they have no idea. And video is really important to them. But it's so easy done, isn't it? It's so easy done. And you wouldn't look at that unless you audited it, because why would you look at something that you don't think is broken, but you need to audit it?
I do think that will change maybe in 10, 20 years, maybe when we've got like a more sophisticated AI maybe that tells us if some tracking is broken. But by default, like if there's a piece of ad copy that gets disapproved or an account goes down, we probably all got some sort of notification that emails us or things like that. But with tracking, like no one really knows what the correct answer is unless you're like literally a human going through it step by step and going, that's firing, that's not firing. So it's so manual and so easy to get like trip up on something like that. the worst case is if you like, the longer it goes, the worse it gets. Like maybe a day or
Yeah.
two of, let's say traffic being 3x is fine, but if you pick it up like 30, 60 days later, it can cause like pretty big issues, right?
I mean, there was years with this client as well, wasn't it? It was like set up from day one, and then years later,
Yeah.
we were like, you know your traffic's inflated by ×3.
Yeah.
I bet that was a bitter pill for him to swallow.
Yeah. So I was like, please tell your stakeholders that we haven't killed the traffic. We've actually just fixed it. So the decline is actually not a decline. It's the truth now.
Yeah. I think that leads into like trackable return on investment as well. And we go over this quite a lot on attribution and things, but it's like, this is really key to ensuring your tracking's correct. Chris, you mentioned before that about those free swatches or whatever, and then you turn on like maximize conversions and you're getting all these free swatches but no sales. Similarly, with another client, is they were tracking soft conversions in Google Ads. They were tracking add to cart. So what looked like was a projection of the value of add to cart was their conversion, wasn't, because they were literally maximizing people to add to cart. I'm seeing the downfall now, and I've got to have a very awkward conversation with them next week just to basically say, I think this has really messed up the audience type and what Google thinks is your audience, which is a hard, again, because this is money being spent on paid media. So we're going to have that conversation, because essentially, and I think all of us, it comes down to is like, where's that return on investment? Like, let alone the fees for you guys to do it, but like, how do we track that it is coming in? So, the importance of tracking is just, I think it's sort of number one priority with anyone coming into any account, really, and double checking it.
Yeah, agreed. And it's the number one thing that I think we're all very like, I mean, I'm looking at this from a personal perspective, but people I've worked with are all very channel specific, and they're all kind of like, I do good on SEO, I do good on paid social, but no one is, quite rightly, I guess, but no one's like a full-time tracker. Do you know what I mean? Unless you're like in maybe a branded in-house and you're helping look after the website and the ads tracking. No one is a kind of full-time PPC ads tracking checker. Because there isn't maybe enough work there, but it's so important. And I think as all as channel specialists, probably just need that extra tool in our belts that we know how to spot at least maybe really bad code, or just how to check if a tagger is firing in the first place. That's definitely something I need to sort of educate myself on a lot more, and just bring more data into the fold for clients, because it's really easy to miss.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just bringing this back to why marketing isn't linear then, especially this is probably actually a really good conversation for all us for SEO and PPC, is that we tend to potentially run campaigns that ROI isn't going to land directly from that campaign. And I think, again, as well as this is an education piece for your own clients, I think it'd be good for the podcast today is to understand kind of what impact ads or SEO can have that isn't necessarily or that can't be tracked directly back to that campaign, but could have a longer term impact on what that return on investment looks like. And do you both have any kind of tips for looking at this, or how best would you kind of go about it and trying to attribute it or trying to show the sort of value in it? So Zoe, I might just chuck this one over to you, as it's an organic piece, because I think this heavily leads on you, and I think you struggle with this quite a lot.
Yeah, so like tracking where the role of a particular channel is coming in the whole marketing landscape, I guess. Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, I think one of the key pieces is that you're working closely with all of your marketing channels. So that's one of the reasons why we like to work together, is an SEO and pay-per-click have got this communication. Because if you don't have that, a recent example is I'm looking at my tracking and I'm like, oh, my clicks have gone down. Like, oh, that's really weird. So I'm like, no, clicks have gone down. Worst thing ever's happened. What's going on? The average position stayed the same. So I'm like, well, clicks are going down, so maybe people just aren't interested. It would have been very easy for me to just make that assumption, or people are just, there's a decreased demand in this month, people are on holiday or something. But then obviously with Leigh and I work really closely together, so at the point of reporting for this particular client, we're discussing both channels and the marketing matrix, if you like. And Leigh's like, oh, I went in ads on that. So like actually clicks haven't gone down. They've just been attributed to ads now, because there's an ad at the top of the organic, which has just kind of now getting the attribution for those clicks. So they're not showing up in Google Search Console anymore, but they are in Google Ads, and they're more measurable now, which I think is a good thing about ads for sure. You can track a little bit more easily the conversion. So I think that communication piece is key. I guess there's like using the parameters and that kind of thing. If you're putting a link somewhere, you can add the parameters, so you're following it through with a little tracking, like, what would you call it, like a snippet in there?
I guess one of the things is like Google Analytics does this, and it has kind of like a touch point path or attribution path, it's called in there. And I think especially for organic, 'cause organic tends to be kind of heavily more of top of funnel, I would say, with traffics, obviously, and then you can use ads to kind of remarket and things. But I think what's kind of interesting, even if you have a look at the attribution paths in GA4, if you for a free tool, if you don't have the money for a more expensive attribution tool, this one works in a roundabout way, is that you can see how organic plays a part. And what you'll very much likely see is that organic sits heavily on that first touch point attribution or first touch point within there. So I think that's one way you can kind of look at how other channels are contributing to each other.
I was going to say, one thing I just thought when you say like top of funnel, I think that is changing, isn't it, with SEO, because anything very, very top of funnel, the AI is going to deal with it. So you won't get, you will get the zero search clicks, 0-click searches. Basically, someone's putting in a search and they're not going to click on your website because they've fulfilled their search through the AI overviews. So you need the click in order to be able to get the data, obviously. But one thing I liked, which I should have said a minute ago, is having a look at like the numbers of people who have like viewed a certain piece of content. Doesn't have to have been through Google. Like if they found like a compare page at your product versus competitor products, for example, and then there's a good chance someone who's viewed that, as long as they're like you, are going to convert later. It could be in 3 months or whatever. But you can set up like segments so you can cross those audiences over and see what's going on. So maybe you don't SEO, is it being attributed with the sale because they come through later because you've emailed them after or something, but you know that they viewed the page that SEO asked for that also does rank on Google, but they could have found it through another means. It doesn't really matter where they found it from, really, because the content is valuable. And that's what SEO can do as well, is it provides data on what people are searching, what they want. Doesn't mean they have to find it through Google. You can share it on your social media. You can get it into emails because the data is kind of transferable. So yeah, basically the segment overlap is really good. So overlapping audiences who have viewed certain content and purchased or downloaded a form or whatever, filled out a form. Gosh, good luck editing that, Mark.
I think that's a really good point, to be fair, like especially on the really interesting thing here, and I don't want to open a can of worms with it, is those AI overviews. I remember seeing like someone did some work on it just to show the percentage of times that it shows. And for certain industries, like a huge percentage of searches are now showing AI overviews, which pushes both organic and paid down the page, or in some cases, no paid at all. So it's going to be really interesting if and when Google then monetize those AI overviews, just to then, it adds another layer to everything, doesn't it, in terms of, I guess, trackability and ads and impression sharing, this, that, and the other. So I know that I'm definitely got my finger on the pulse that as soon as they say they're releasing it, I'm the first one to put an ad campaign that directs towards AI overviews.
Yeah, I don't want to go off topic here either, but they have got that new AI Max, haven't they, for search? Although they haven't said it's within the search, is it SGE, the search generative whatever, in the AI overview. I'm wondering if it is the next step, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely, you look at the number of queries, and like I remember I was talking about this like a few years ago, that the average query length is going up as more people use Alexa and all that kind of stuff. And that was a bit of a fad maybe, but definitely now like people are going onto these chat platforms and it already knows about you. And the scary thing was, I was just asking where like a local garden center was, and it already knew where my location was, and it told me all the ones that were local to me and very personalized to me. I was like, how would I be able to influence that? It's just so difficult to do. But as soon as you get ads in there, you're straight in there. Do you know what I mean? For those queries. And yeah, it's scary, but I think equally exciting.
Yeah. And then I think I just wanted to touch back on different ways we could potentially measure or show value for different marketing channels. If you go back to the first stat that I mentioned with the B2B, it mentioned that 70% of people have already kind of made their decision prior to contact. And this goes back to normally in B2B, they probably line up 3 people to have that conversation. But if we were trying to relay this to maybe C-level suites or whatever, how our marketing has an impact, especially if we are running a funnel approach or funnel logic, or trying to have funnel logic within our marketing, brand awareness rarely obviously gets attributed to sales, but I think it'd be really good for our audience listening as to how we can try and measure what that looks like. So I might just chuck it back to you, Chris. How do you think we can measure the value of marketing channels, especially at that kind of top of funnel stage?
Yeah, definitely. I think Google are very aware of this problem because they're really keen to get us all spending on more than just search, but actually everything
Yeah.
else that they offer. I think that's why PMax was introducing an example, because you can then start to buy inventory around shopping, Gmail, discovery, everything like that you don't necessarily have a search on. So for them to be able to connect the dots between people that see an ad on, let's just say, Gmail, where people aren't searching, it's just based on personas, and actually then being able to understand how does that uplift people coming to my site or searching for my products after that is really important. So they've got things now like brand uplift studies, search uplift studies that show you the impact of people that have seen an ad and then taken action, whether that's YouTube or video or something similar. And I think stuff like that is really, really key for us to use. I think it's in beta, I'm not exactly sure, or there might be a cost threshold to that. But definitely, if we can just start to bridge the two examples together between the more top of funnel ads that we know are not people specifically searching, and then understand what that impact that has on people searching, that's just going to mean that when you're kind of going to your boss or to a client and trying to get more budget unlocked, you kind of then got the approach of, well, 100,000 people saw my ad on YouTube, and then next month we got 500 more searches on our
Yeah.
brand. And that actually related to 2,000 more people that searched generically but had seen that video. I think just being able to tell the story with numbers is so much easier than going, yeah, we spent $5,000 on, out of home advertising, and we don't really know what impact it had.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to do a little plug now. I did a little article about this of what other metrics you should measure apart from just ROAS. And one of those being was that cost per impression as well, because it can have that trickle effect, and rightfully so, it will have that trickle effect that people will see and probably convert maybe a couple of weeks to a month's time, is actually looking at how many impressions you've had and what that actually correlates to in a time period. If you've had more sales, whilst they can't be directly linked back to the ad to affect, if you're looking at just sort of Google ads, for instance, or Google Analytics, it's definitely something that to start sort of being mindful of. And I think this goes back to, again, Zoe, with organic, is like brand search is improving as well. More traffic on the website in general. It definitely can be attributed. And I think if you're just making sure that you're keeping like logs of campaigns and when they're going live and all of this information, you can tell that story.
Definitely. And I think what's really useful now, I can't remember when it was actually released, but the thing in Google Ads that just tells you like why something happened. I cannot remember every single change I've made in an ads account, but to have just that little thing to say, no, you made a change to the bidding strategy or the budget is so useful to then understand that journey and just give their clients that better answer than I know we were talking about before. It's like it's really easy for me to say to my clients, particularly now, oh, it's the summer holidays, no one's searching for your B2B product. But actually then if you're able to tie everything together to say, actually, yeah, we did a new PPC campaign, or we turned on YouTube ads, and it just helps give a more concrete answer, doesn't it? Rather than just not an excuse, but just like a cookie cut answer that we use for everything.
Seasonality.
Yeah, exactly.
So have you got anything else to add with that, with the SEO portion?
No, I don't think so. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
much covered it with my ramble before as well.
Another thing I'm kind of battling, funnily enough, battling this question today, this about attribution models, and why they're more misleading. And Chris, I think you've put a comment on here. You get more questions than answers, and I think that is so true. Trying to explain attribution models, and then trying to explain that every platform has its own attribution models is just an absolute minefield, and attribution windows as well. And I think this is a common occurrence with, again, more so I think with paid media, is that one platform will be over reporting sales, or they've had more sales on PPC in general than they've actually taken. I don't know, what is the question I'm trying to ask here is like, what is your thoughts on this, Chris? And do you have like a kind of a workaround about how you go about sort of either educating your client, or anything that really springs to mind when talking about attribution?
Yeah, it's really good. I think education is like so important in these situations. I remember thinking back to a client that had where they would go down into everything into the nth degree and go, well, why isn't J4 matching Google Ads exactly? And we all know that like Meta, for example, or all the ad platforms, they want you to spend money on their platforms. So of course, every tiny little hint of a conversion, they're going to want to take full credit for. So I think the way that I'm trying to guide my clients through it is just by education. showing them from the start the kind of the things that we're measuring and why things might be different between different platforms, and then trying to work on a solution that fits their best needs. So let's just say Google Ads, it might not be the best solution, but we're going to use Google Ads tracking for this, or for this client, we're going to use J4. Yeah, I don't want to jump the gun too much further ahead, but I've used other third-party tools like Triple Whale is really good. And just being able to tell clients the difference between first click, last click, data-driven, and the differences of what it might mean in numbers is really helpful in simple terms. These clients that we kind of talk to on the daily, they're business owners, or they're top-level marketing people. They haven't got the time to really digest and go into the nitty-gritty in some cases of everything. So for us to be really proactive in it and say, these are the numbers, they're not going to match, but actually this is what we think is the best source of truth is really good. Because ultimately these clients and these big business leaders and these marketers are responsible for the true sales in their business. They're not like, no matter what, if Google Ads tells us if it's 1 or 100, if their business has only got 5, that's ultimately what they live and die by, isn't it? So we've got to just try and help understand why those metrics are different in the first place. Does that answer your question?
No, it does. I think it's such a. I did a whole other episode on attribution. It is such a minefield. I think even for marketers, to be honest, it is. But I think we have to be, as marketers, honest in everything that we do, and like you said, tell that story and paint that picture of why things have shifted or why GA4 is not showing this. And I think again, it's very difficult to attribute conversions at this top of funnel stage, or for, if you're just doing really heavy brand awareness. But I think there are other ways you can do it, and I think there is a direct correlation between sales or leads even with brand awareness. And I think just educating users on that, and potentially not getting into attribution too much. Like, whilst I think the education piece is there, I think you can just get so wrapped up in this campaign's done this, and with like losing sight of like a huger picture, which is kind of why I'm battling at the moment with someone on this. It's like neither of us are wrong in what we're saying, but I'm just trying to but the bigger picture is this. Like, if we were to turn off this is going to then impact this, regardless of attribution, regardless of where we can attribute the channel to. It will all have an impact, and I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do at the moment with this particular client, anyway.
I think you make a really good point as well. With all of this, we're trying to do it for the better of our client. We're not trying to do it to get the perfect solution. And what the things that I always say to my clients are, let's not get the perfect, get in the way of the better. If we can do something we know is going to generate more sales, we don't have to have something that to the nth degree tells us exactly how many sales uplift there was. As long as there's an uplift, then that's great, right? So I always think people are striving for something that's perfect, and 9 times out of 10 that doesn't exist. So equally, though, I would encourage people to obviously try and get the best numbers they can, but don't let it stop you from trying something completely new, because you're never going to get 100% perfect answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Zoe, have you got anything else to add to that before we kind of move on to the next section of this?
No, the only thing I'd add as a very small point would be when you're in your analysis, you want to pick a system, don't you? And then just stick with it, and then look for the uptick on the system that you've chosen. Because if you try and pull metrics from everywhere, it's not going to be very accurate, really. And it's not going to be accurate even when it's going to be that 90% good enough is what you're shooting for, isn't it?
What's the saying where you can you can have too much data, isn't it? It's like data overload. No, I don't know if that's it. Analysis paralysis. That's it. You can just have so much data and not know what to do with it. And I think the simpler the better. And this goes back to, I guess, the topic of this conversation. Marketing isn't linear, but it's trying to find a simplified way to understand your data, as long as it's correct. As long as you've got correct data, and trying to understand it in the most simplified way is going to help you, versus having too much data where you can just get so overwhelmed with it, and then you change this, then you lose sight of why you've changed this and that. So I think the biggest takeaway really is probably just simplifying it, and maybe in the best you can.
Definitely. And having everyone that's on that same page with that one KPI that we all need to work with. To be honest, that's the one biggest thing I miss out at working with AI, was that everyone was working to the same hymn sheet. Everyone knew when Black Friday came along, they all need to get this much product sold, because then this would mean XYZ. And everyone was kind of on that same journey together. So communication is so, so important. If someone's trying to optimize towards impression share, someone another in ad rank, and then someone else in terms of commercial profitability, you're all just pulling different strings. Whereas if you all have a Looker Studio that says, this is our profit, or this is our CPA, you need to go for this, everyone is just so much more aligned.
Chris, that is so interesting, actually. I think that is just a really useful bit of advice, and I haven't worked in an industry of any size like AO personally, internally, but I think that is just such a key thing, like get everyone to understand what metric we're all going for. I don't know why that was so simple for me to just be like, I'm gobsmacked, to be honest. So the next section then is planning for chaos and what kind of actually works. I think I've already just touched on this, but my takeaway would be keeping it simple. And Chris, I'm going to pinch your bit here, but like making sure everyone is singing off the same hymn sheet, keeping it simple, understanding what the goal is, and that every bit of marketing that you're doing is improving and helping, as long as you're doing it correctly. But I think at the end of the day, is everything is helping the same pot. I mean, we've all got that one common goal here.
I was just going to say, sorry, I'm jumping on that. I've probably got an interesting example of almost asking for forgiveness and not permission in a lot of ways. So we're all working these things together and we're all trying to do these things, but equally call out something if you think it's not great, even if it's always been done that way and everyone's fine with it. So a really recent example I've had is I've kind of got a client that does certain surgeries, and they've got like a public arm and a private arm. And the public arm, they can only really track if they've kind of clicks out to another website, like it clicks to the NHS website. The private arm could obviously then track everything in terms of, actual lead form fills, etc., etc. And they were spending all this money on clicks out to the NHS, and he had no idea the actual revenue or intake or anything from that. And I was just going, well, unless challenged otherwise, turn it off, see what the impact is. Otherwise, you're never going to know what the impact is. And the only true way to know what the impact is everything else consistent and just slash that budget for a month. And if you all start panicking, we can turn it back on. But that's the only way I'm going to give you an actual answer in terms of what the attribution of that thing is. And sometimes you just got to be a bit brutal with it. And because these guys are spending money, they're spending real pounds on something they don't know the impact of. So we just ended up turning it off. And lo and behold, like so far, it's not actually been too detrimental, and they've got a saving now which they can invest maybe into the private arm or something else.
I love that so much. I just want to say that really ties in beautifully with, we did a podcast last month on hiring freelancers and consultants, and we asked Lewis Smith about how to tell a good consultant from not necessarily a bad one, but maybe one who's not so sophisticated. And I think what you just said there is a classic example of someone who is a sophisticated marketer, who like has the courage to make like a bold decision against a decision of stakeholders, or to like, or not necessarily to make it against them, but to bring them into alignment with an idea and a plan, and to challenge a pre-existing process and do something completely different. So yeah, that's really good. Totally agree. And yeah, kudos to you for just kind of being able to like not stand up to it, but like make the recommendation, because that is exactly what businesses need.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I first started out in PPC, I was really nervous about doing anything that was above the, really annoyed about annoying people. I didn't want to do it. I was just happy if everyone else was happy. But I think you can actually make a real impact in like your own careers by just almost taking a stand and being like, I think this is right. Even if it's a gut feeling, just go for it. And I'm not saying go out there and spend £1 million, then your boss comes asking why you spend that £1 million. But, again, just relating back to AO, and I know I keep relating back to it, but that company was very much the kind of, unless it's going to do something crazy, just do it. And we'll pick up the pieces if it doesn't work. Because I'm such a big fan of failure, not the fact that we should strive towards failure, but the fact that failures tell us a lot of learnings. Get everything perfect, and it doesn't actually tell us anything. So just try new things, go out there, and there's so much changing now, isn't there?
Yeah, that mentality though, Chris, is great. And I don't think you can fail in marketing as such, because you're always learning from it. Sorry. And I think no campaign is bad, or no content piece is bad, because you can learn from it and know what not to do next time. It just tightens up what then does work. So I just want to switch that a minute. I don't think you can fail as such in marketing. As obviously, if you're going to spend £1 million and it's gone nowhere, then obviously yes. But I think if you're strategic about it and you try something, I don't think it is a failure. I think it is just a lesson learned.
Definitely. And as long as you don't then spend another £1 million and do the exact same thing, I think that's what true failure is doing that twice. As long as you've taken some learnings from that and you adopt your approach next time, then that's all good.
Yeah, and I think like most decisions are actually quite reversible in marketing, aren't they? Like I've like messed with pages, tanked them with SEO before, and been like, oh my god, I've literally taken a page 1 rank to like page 3. But then like into WordPress, into revision history, roll it back to page 1 again. But like when you're starting out, you're just too frightened to make the decisions that might do something like that. But then you learn, actually, most things are reversible, unless you do something really silly, which is, we don't think you should be doing that. Like, don't make like irreversible bad decisions, but you can take a fairly sizable risk, I think, in marketing. But yeah, it takes time to get to that point.
Like most things are reversible, I'd say, in marketing game, particularly on cross PPC. If you put something live, you can pause it. If you get something disapproved, you can appeal. You know, there's stuff that always a workaround.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. We're not doing that. So you say, Leigh, like we're not out here doing like surgery. Like we're just.
Oh yeah, we're not doing heart surgery, are we? Like
it's gonna be right. It's gonna be all right.
And you know what? Nothing surprises me, and I think in marketing, I think we come in this with the knowledge and we know what kind of works for industries and this, but nothing surprises me. If something hasn't worked for one client, try it on another, because audience, and this is why marketing isn't linear, like at all. Like you just try it, see it. If it works, great. I mean, like I'm shocked every day at stuff that I really didn't think would works amazingly for one client and tanks on another. So
yeah, I know it's a really weird example. We might not want to include this, but you know, on the trains, how they say, see it, say it, sorted. I'm exactly like that with any audit that I do on an ads account. It's like, oh, hang on, that's not right. If I say something and don't just keep it to myself, at least I know it'll be sorted, even if it was a false flag. So whenever I hear that now, I just think, right, where's that ad account that I'm auditing?
Yeah, love that. We're like that. So I tell you what, that's quite a good like thing actually. See it, say it, sort it. So that's people who are listening on in the UK, that you hear that on at the train lines, don't you? Like if there's a problem, tell us and we'll sort it out.
it's basically like for terrorism, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But you know, it works here. It works in this environment. But yeah, that's another thing though. It's nice about. I'm going off topic here a little bit, but you know, you do want someone who, like, we see problems that are like out of scope of what we're doing sometimes. Like Leigh has spotted problems that are way out of scope, like literally in like an email campaign. She's like, you do realize that you're not tracking your leads or something. And if we see a problem like that, we are just gonna work to resolve it with the client and the team, because then all of marketing's gonna like benefit from it, isn't it? But I think you're right, like having the courage to like raise the flags, even if they're not, it's maybe like not really your business, but you know, make it your business, because we're all a team with the same goal, which is getting people to convert through marketing.
It shows you care as well. I think that's so important. Not that I'm bad-mouthing anybody or any agencies, but there's so many people that maybe will just do a job. And actually, if you sort of say, oh, hang on, I care about your business, I want you to grow. This isn't my bag, but this is off. Then that just builds up so much trust and rapport that, you know, they'll probably work with you for a long, long time, because you know you've got their back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally agree.
Absolutely. And then just want to bring it back to kind of the main topic of today. I think there's lots of things we can do, and we talk about why marketing is linear and things like that. Is there any, Chris, you mentioned earlier a tool called Triple Whale. I've not heard of this. I'm really keen because I want to try it out. I've just had a bit of a search on it already. I assume it's a paid tool, right? But if you could tell us more.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you an example of maybe a paid tool and a free tool as well that I use. So Triple Whale is really good because for me with GA4, the attribution is a bit spotty, and I think I have trust issues with Google marking its own homework for Google Ads.
Yeah.
Triple Whale is kind of independent then party. It's a bit like Google Analytics, but it kind of has its own, I think it's called like the triple tag or something like that. And it kind of shows you the different attribution paths. So for us at the moment, it's unlocked. I work with a jewelry client, and it's unlocked a lot more. It showed that Meta is basically massively overinflating its own numbers, even in GA4. And it will kind of show it through its own tag, which is server-side tracking, what the actual true figures really are and where that money should be invested. And it kind of gives you the example of what first click, last click and their own tag look like versus what the platforms are also reporting on. So you kind of get 4 different views in one easy to read kind of dashboard. But then it also shows the different paths that they took. So if someone was to jump on an organic link, then on a PPC ad, and then let's just say watched a video and did this the other, it kind of shows you those different platforms and those different paths. The free part of this is that you can then also see those paths in GA4, which I really like to use. You can see the paths to say what channels did they go on? Was it organic? Then was it paid? Then was it back to organic? And then where was the real killer kind of final piece? Was it through a paid piece? Was it through people going through to my 50% off page? Or did actually then they convert on organic? And you can then just build up a little bit of a picture, even though it's never going to be perfect in terms of who's really pulling the weight here. Is it organic that's actually getting in all the top of funnel people? And then we actually close them on paid? or is there something else that we're missing? Does direct play a big part? Of which case, are we looking at out of home stuff? So to just get that view on top level report on all the different channels, I think can be really useful.
I'm about to sign up for that as we speak. I think I'm just so like I think GA4 as well. If you're not looking for a paid tool, GA4 does have attribution paths within it. I think it can give you a rough estimate of how things work. But one things I really like to show clients is the amount of times people touch your brand before they convert. I think again, goes back to why marketing isn't linear. Especially I see this with more B2B or larger purchases. People are really shocked when I say, look, it takes on average someone 14 days to convert from ever seeing you. So like put that into context of all of your marketing channels, what you're doing for SEO. Like if we're constantly making sure we've got something in the front of mind with the user in that time period, we can sort of safely say that we can probably convert them, not all of them, but we could probably get there. But just seeing that touch point alone, I think it really shocks people. And just for those who are listening, you can see this on the attribution paths within GA4, but other platforms will show you how long it takes someone to convert. And I think that's really important when we look at even like retargeting windows and things like that, like making sure you're constantly retargeting or turn off retargeting if it's, if they've got a shorter window and things like that. So yeah, love seeing the touch points part.
Definitely. And not to steal a point before, let me know if you want to cut this out, but the point on there around ecosystems and content is so valuable. So I remember watching a podcast with James Sinclair, and this format we're in now is another example where, maybe we're not going to get 10 leads on the back of this, putting down this podcast, and then, Monday morning we get 10 people in our inboxes. But, the value this brings over time is immeasurable in some ways in a positive way. This is going to go out to people, they're going to get value from it. And over the months and years that this exists, then you've kind of got something that you built one time that has an impact forever. And I think that is really, really important, that we're just constantly building content and that ecosystem that keeps re-engaging with people. Yeah,
absolutely. Myself and Zoe were together in person with each other on Wednesday. We've obviously got this podcast running. This is really like just a fun project for us to do. And we're not under any illusion that this podcast was going to sort of take off and have thousands and thousands and millions of views and listeners and make us money in the interim. But what it has allowed us to do is, one, connect with people out in like yourself, Chris. It's also allowed us to make content. But what Zoe's doing on the back of this is making then some readable content, Zoe.
Yeah, like blog posts
and things like that. So we've now got this stuff that can compound over time. And it's all kind of interlinking into an ecosystem. We make social posts out of it. We've got like clips, we've got YouTube, and just from this one bit of time that we've taken to do a podcast, we've got now nearly 5 different bits of content from it.
Yeah, we're not really measuring this, aren't I? I don't really I sort of don't care. So I do care.
I do, mate. I'm like, oh, another follower.
Yeah, but it's not going to impact whether or not we carry on with it, because I just know it is valuable.
That's exactly the metric that I think we should all be like part of us looking at, is doing stuff because it's the right thing to do. We enjoy it as well. So like, I think, again, sorry, AO reference, they're going to be sick of me talking about them. And
are you sponsored, Chris?
Yeah, sponsored by AO.com. But one of the things there was bears. So I don't know if you've seen like the little bears that maybe if you're getting a dishwasher delivered, if you've got a kid or a dog, they might just jump out of the van and we give you a bear with your dishwasher or washing machine or fridge freezer. And they have no idea about the brand impact of that, like in the slightest. How can they measure that possibly? But they know it's the right thing to do. And they are now probably one of the biggest buyers of bears in the UK. They give away hundreds of thousands of them. I've got one up here, actually, if you give me a second.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by this.
I've never used AO. I feel really bad now. I want a bear. Oh my God.
There you go. So you just get one of those.
That's similar to like the meerkat stuff, isn't it? Remember you used to get your car insurance, whether you'd get sent a meerkat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just about building brand loyalty, I think, isn't it? That'll sit around. That's been on my desk obviously for a year. That'll sit around in dogs' mouths or I don't know, children's playrooms or the dad's office forever.
Yeah.
It's a piece of material unless you throw it away, and it just reminds you of the brand. And it's probably a lot more. Not to bring another brand into this, but I've never used this, which I got for free at one time, which is just one of these little charger things. And again, you get them at these events that you go to and they're free and whatever, but it doesn't have the same impact, does it? It's something that's more tangible than a teddy bear. It's a nice little treat to have when you're not expecting it. And I think that's the thing that they're going to with this, is surprising and delighting the customer.
I just had to find this because I knew there was another example of someone not tracking massive marketing efforts. And this was Ferry Kazonis, who's got the PR agency, Search Intelligence. And he says that he spends 100 grand a month on sponsorship deals and doesn't even track the ROI of it. So he's spending 100K and not tracking it. And there's actually like a 3-minute video on this, but in short, it's for like the reasons that we've said. How does he justify it? It's like self-attribution and incrementality analysis. So incremental gains, I guess. So yeah, sometimes you just know it's working and you can't use, it's just really hard to track with any real tangible data.
They're the real gaps, aren't they? They're the opportunities where loads of people won't do it because they can't measure it. And that's the exact essence of why you should do it.
This goes back into this stakeholder like obsession with it as well.
There's some things that are easy done as well. I remember having a conversation with a client. They were making videos anyway, and we were putting content on the website anyway. So if we marry up the videos and the content, in theory, the content's going to start doing better in Google because it's got that like extra media. People are going to spend longer on the site if they're going to watch the video. All this type of like good common sense stuff. And then they were like, well, can you now present us with the data to show the videos on the blogs are working? But I'm like, just kind of like, why? Because it takes, you're making the video anyway. It's literally a 3-minute job to go and get an embed code and paste it into a blog. It's a less than 3 minutes, a 1-minute job. So just do it anyway. Take that kind of best practice and just kind of know that that is going to work because it just is. And it's useful. And I suppose that goes back a little bit to it's about content ecosystems. Like, just create content that's useful, like do the right thing, do the good thing, and you will see the benefits over time, but you might not see it in the data. Like, you're not going to get like 20 sales just because you've embedded a blog into a piece of content, but you do it over and over and it will influence it, and you might become the go-to resource for certain things. But these things aren't built overnight, are they? No one gets that overnight just for doing that.
And I do understand it. Like, people have to have marketing budget, and I get it, and they have to see that return. But I think there's a bigger picture of return of what that looks like. And it's finding the easiest way to relay that to your team, or finding an easier way to show that data. But I think there is a larger picture than just sales sometimes. And that comes back to like the trust building element. Like, oh, why bother wasting time getting reviews? Because it's we've just seen the stats in themselves. Like, it's a credibility factor. Spend the time doing it.
Yeah.
And again, I think all of these efforts just compound over time and just make you better.
Absolutely. That's a good example, actually. 95% of, what was it? 95% of consumers are looking at reviews, but you're not going to see a 95% increase in sales just because you've gone to go out and get them all. Do you know what I mean? But it is going to make a difference, but you're not going to be able to see that on a graph necessarily.
Yeah.
But if 95% of you view reviews, then reviews are really important.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't really see that, I don't think, on your bottom line because it's more incremental.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just to sort of answer some questions then before we kind of wrapped this up. Go on, Zoe.
Right, I was going to say, I was looking at the question list, and I think we might have actually naturally answered a few of them. I think the main one, which I did think would be quite interesting to do perhaps a quick chat on, is do you still build marketing strategies around funnels? So we spent quite a bit of time saying how the funnel isn't that useful, but also is, or have you moved on to something else? So do you still build marketing strategies around funnels, or have you moved on? So do you want to go first, Leigh, or I can go first?
Chris, you go first.
Yeah, sure. So I think as a starter with 10, I definitely still use marketing funnels, particularly when there's not a lot else in there to sort of go off, and almost then just trying to provide rough value to each one. So, that even if each channel has got its own manager and its own KPIs, we can probably do something to tie them all together. So, for example, if a guy in Google is getting 100 leads in and generating 10 opportunities, then there might be a separate CRM division that already knows, well, if they get 10 opportunities in, that leads to one true sale. And they can just you can then bridge that to build a model based on individual channel components. So the funnel is really, really good. I definitely still build them a lot. And, I will always then, if I'm starting with a completely blank slate, this is almost like a 101 guide for someone who's starting out, maybe getting a Google Ads campaign, generating the traffic, go on a Meta Ads campaign, do remarketing funnel. And, just because you're getting prospecting from people that are searching, you can then target those people and retarget those people on Facebook that have been searching before. And I think just knowing little quick funnels like that when you have no data is really, really simple to do and gives people at least a starting point to then understand, right, well, what impact has that actually had over a certain period of time?
That's exactly what I was going to say, Chris. I think if you're starting out with little to no data or incorrect data, start again. This is the basics of it, of what a funnel looks like, and then you can build upon that, and then the funnel can expand into email marketing and things like that, because you can use that funnel approach into different areas of marketing, not just paid media. We talk a lot about paid media because it's one of the most trackable sources, but again, you can feed that into organic as well.
With organic, I guess the way to do that is this is how I do it with the funnel is I always basically just start at the bottom. So I never think, I'm never thinking about the what is, how are type of questions at the top, because I mean, at this point, we're not even going to get traffic for those anymore. So there's really, I don't want to say there's no point because it does still have its place, but I would start bottom funnel. So it's like, what am I trying to sell? Who to? That those kind of pages get optimized. And then I go up the funnel. So then it's like, how do I then create content to help people in the consideration phase? So that's going to be like your brand versus or product versus, maybe case studies, whatever. And I'm looking at all this through the SEO angle. And then I go kind of further up the funnel. And I guess when the bottom funnel stuff is like, that's the conversion bit. So that's probably the most kind of transferable funnel across different decision makers, I guess. But when you get into consideration, that's when it really is more like really broad and you're going to have loads of different types of content for different people. But what's also nice to kind of feed into what you said as well about going into the other departments then is I might be able to say to Leigh then when we're doing like SEO and ads together, oh, I've managed to get this audience built up of X, maybe it's like thousands of people. They've got this problem. And then they now know about this solution because I know they viewed this piece of content. Can you now go and target them specifically with the right messaging? So that's how it can all tie in. But yeah, bottom funnel first.
I like that difference actually. And I guess for anyone listening, SEO Zoe is talking is like bottom upwards. And then PPC is kind of the other way round almost, which is kind of interesting if you're going to do that. And I think
it's definitely really interesting. I think the way that Google obviously works is giving it as much data as you can and working things down, whereas SEO is very much let's start on the keywords we know work well and then build that reach out. But I think, as you can imagine, like the very low funnel keywords or ads or whatever, the keywords, they're so expensive to bid on because everyone's bidding on them and they all want to get in front of the people for the eyes. So I think the opportunity really is this kind of content ecosystem we were talking about, the blog pieces, people where it's not going to be as expensive or as noisy, but you know that the person will think of you when they're actually at the buying stage. So if they have read a piece of content about you that was really insightful and really helpful, and it had a video and it had like loads of information that they actually remembered and implemented, as soon as they get into that buying stage, they'll go, well, actually, I remember that video I saw from XYZ and that was really good. I've seen a few companies that are really trying to build their content game up and just being useful, not only for the SEO algorithm or the quality scores on Google, but to just genuinely help the customer or potential customer make a decision further down the line.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, just full circle. This goes back to that B2B stat we said earlier. 70% of those people have already made a decision by the time they've got in touch. So being the most useful person out there for that customer, making sure that all the information's there, there's transparency there, you're naturally going to get that conversion when they get in touch.
Perfect. That's full circle. That is
full circle. Yeah. Oh my God. I feel like we should do this. We're like experts at podcasting now.
The illusion.
But yeah, the illusion. But yeah, I think that probably kind of wraps everything up. I think we've actually touched a load of topics today, which are surprisingly really nice. But I guess this always happens when you get free marketers in a room and they just bounce ideas off each other. I know I've got a lot of ideas that I want to go back and explore or even just tighten up for some clients. Definitely going to have a look at Triple Whale. And if this podcast sounds like it's sponsored by AO, it is not. We're not getting paid for this. But yeah, just to recap points really then. So I think buyers aren't necessarily following that approach of top, middle, and bottom. They're not going to kind of just go through that motion. Keep that in mind though, because they do jump around, but you can then easily see where you need to improve or even add additional funnels onto the side into different channels. Focus on strategy, visibility, and touch points, not just attribution. Think of a larger picture when you're doing marketing, and communicate your impact with real examples and not just numbers. So is anything want to add any sort of key points onto that?
I think that was perfect.
No, yeah, I think perfectly answered.
Well, It's always a pleasure talking with you, Zoe. Chris, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate your time here. Definitely learned a lot of things. If you have a referral code for Triple Whale, though, send it me.
Well, no, thanks for having me.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. Well, this has been the Forank Marketing Podcast. Thank you for listening. Our next episode will be discussing marketing for non-profits and charities with special guest Tom Pratt. I'm really excited for this podcast. It's not actually something that I've dealt with often, non-profit and charities. So definitely something I can learn a lot from there. But if you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe to Forank Marketing, follow us on LinkedIn, and share your most chaotic buyer story with us. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Forank Marketing Podcast. We'll be releasing a new episode every month, so don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.